If you are ready to make a big move, maybe buy a new place or even just thinking about it, before you dive in, let me ask you this. Have you thought about what type of neighborhood that you want to live in? We've all heard the horror stories. People find what seems like just a perfect home, but once they move in, they realize the area is just not what they thought it was. So whether you're just starting your home search or already deep in the process, just hold up, just hold a second. Even the nicest homes can turn into an absolute nightmare if they were in the wrong neighborhood. Today, I'm breaking down 5 types of neighborhoods that you should just absolutely avoid so you don't end up regretting your decision down the road. So what should you watch out for? Well, starting off our list is high crime areas. Now, this may seem like a no-brainer, right? Living in an area that has high crime can be stressful and unsafe. It affects everything from your daily sense of security to how comfortable you feel letting the kids play outside or just walk in the neighborhood or even going to the local park. And then properties in high crime areas generally just have a harder time appreciating in value or even losing value over time. The simple fact is that fewer buyers are interested, which results in a limited market if you're planning to sell down the road. So you may be wondering, how do you go about spotting this, right? If you don't know the area, what are you looking for? Well, what you can do is actually check the local crime statistics or through local law enforcement data. What I usually do is just Google the city you're interested in, load up the local crime map, usually a good starting point. What you can also do is just visit the area at different times of the day, talk to people in the neighborhood that you're looking at, get a true sense of what's going on. Number 2 on the list is areas with limited amenities. An ideal neighborhood really should have amenities like a grocery store, parks, restaurants, schools, healthcare facilities within a reasonable distance. When I think of an area lacking these essentials, what you should keep in mind is the daily living can become inconvenient or even isolating because everything is just so far away. On the flip side though, neighborhoods with strong amenities tend to attract more buyers and can lead to stronger property appreciation over time, as areas without amenities are often slower to grow in value and just may not keep up with the local market trends. So how do you research these amenities? Well, it's not rocket science. Easiest way to do this is just go on Google Maps, see what's nearby. Pay attention to things like grocery stores, public transit, you have bus stops. What I want you to understand is it's important to know where all the amenities are. So an example of this is, let's say you take the bus to work, right? And you're looking at neighborhoods and the closest bus stop is 20 minutes away from that neighborhood. Well, it would be unfortunate to figure this out after the fact. If a bus stop is important to you, look for neighborhoods that have a bus stop nearby or close enough where it's not going to be so much of a big problem. Or maybe you want a hospital to be no further than, 10 minutes away. My point with all this is that you need to do your homework. Figure out what are your must-haves when it comes to amenities and then find neighborhoods that meet those requirements. My list is neighborhoods with poor infrastructure or high congestion. When it comes to infrastructure, the neighborhoods I see this happening the most in are cities and towns that are growing substantially. They're putting in massive subdivisions without thinking about the future infrastructure that's needed. And to make matters worse, are cities that have been lagging behind on the needed infrastructure. And now that the city is growing, there are massive upgrades that are required, which yes, some of the developers will be on the hook for it, but a lot of it comes down to the taxpayers, which is you living in that city. What would I do to try and figure this out? Well, I would just reach out to the local community boards. There's going to be forums out there that are going to have firsthand of what's going on in the neighborhoods. Then there's a pretty good chance that they'll have a Facebook group where you can ask questions and talk to a lot of the local experts in that area. And then as for the high congestion neighborhoods, what I would do is just visit the area during rush hour. This is going to give you a lot of insight in seeing how the traffic just flows, especially around schools. So if you're looking at a neighborhood that has a school, right, we got the pickup and drop off times, which can be chaotic sometimes. Or what you can do is just knock the neighborhood that you're interested in. Talk to some of the neighbors who have lived there for 5, 10, 15, 35 years in that neighborhood. They know exactly what is going on because that's going to be your best bet when it comes to the most updated information on that neighborhood. Another good way to see how the future developments or just the planning in general within the city is going to affect that neighborhood is go look at the official community plan. It's a great document talking about how the city is going to look in the next 5, 10, 15 years down the road. That way you have some idea of what's happening here. And if that all seemed too complicated or just overwhelming, I always recommend chatting with a local real estate agent for the latest neighborhood updates, as any good agent will know exactly what is going on in their neighborhood. If you have one already, that's great. But if you don't, you can always shoot me a text at this number right here, or you can use the link in the description to book a call with me and just see if I'm able to help, or at least just point you in the right direction to a local trusted expert. So if that's you, click the link below. Number 4 on our list is industrial or high pollution areas. And what comes to mind is just living near factories, highways, other pollution sources that just lead to long-term health issues. Air pollution from these areas can have an effect on your respiratory health and even contribute to allergies and asthma. There is a website put on the Government of Canada called the National Pollutant Release Inventory. I'll put a link in the description. Basically, this website just shows you all the industrial sites that are registered in Canada that are releasing harmful pollutants into the air, so it's a good one to check out. But even then, I'd still recommend just walking or driving around these areas that you are planning on buying just to see if it's going to be a problem for you. Then also keep in mind with these industrial areas, they can be noisy with the trucks, machines, just round-the-clock operations. Now, cities do try and keep the residential and the industrial areas separate, but this just doesn't always work. As cities grow, things change. So you want to make sure that you have all the information before you do anything. And then we have neighborhoods in flood zones or prone to natural disasters. And what I find is properties that are in flood prone areas do have a harder time getting insured. And then if you do want coverage, the premiums tend to be higher. And then if a natural disaster did strike, the repairs can be substantial. And then some buyers might be deterred by living in a higher risk area. A way to check if the neighborhood is in a flood zone is just to Google the province you're in and then put flood zone map after it. And then when looking at these flood maps, it's going to tell you whether or not the area that you're looking at is in fact in a flood zone. But almost in all cases, this is going to come up when you're looking into insurance for the property. But even if you're not in a flood zone, you want to make sure that there is no natural disasters that can pose a threat. And to me, it's not so much the older, more established neighborhoods that you need to be worried about, unless, there's some ongoing changes recently. But really, it's the newer neighborhoods where there hasn't been a massive rainfall or forest fires in the area, where it really does test to see if it can handle it. And it truly is something to take serious, right? With forest fires and just excessive rain becoming more frequent, or so it seems, you want to be sure that this isn't going to be a problem for the neighborhood that you're interested in. What I really hope you get from this is that you think outside the box when looking at neighborhoods, because some areas may look perfect on the surface and check all the boxes. But when you dig a little deeper in the points that I've covered, you might realize that they're not the right fit. Though once you have found that neighborhood that just checks all the boxes, you've done your due diligence, you're happy with moving into a property in that area, you're going to want to watch this next video where I talk about all the homes or all the types of homes that I would just avoid at all costs. So while you wait for this one to load up, leave me a comment on anything that you thought I missed or just personal stories that you had on this topic. And while you do that, I'm going to go fly some drones.